is showtime for us to talk about the last of our 2-year-old in training sales that we've attended here in the year 2016. I want to thank everybody for joining us. We're also having a video presentation to go along with the call today. And today we'll talk about the 4 newest West Point horses. 3 purchased down in Ocala, and the 4th that was purchased out on the West Coast for the Barrett sale. The buying team, yes, we are back now from Ocala, Florida, and boy, are our arms tired and our eyes as well, because there were 1,200 horses cataloged in the marathon sale. It really requires some focus, some dedication, and after a number of buys leading up to this sale, required some discipline on the team's part and on Gary Finley's part, because he ultimately was the guy bidding on these horses. It's been a good sales for us historically, the OBS April sale. We purchased our Kentucky Derby runner-up, Commanding Curve, at this sale, as well as our stakes winner, Empire Dreams. I should say stakes winner and near millionaire Empire Dreams. The OBS March horses were so well received, the ones that we bought back in March, and based on feedback from partners, we really felt like we had an additional need for horses in certain regions and with certain trainers. And so that was what, as you see Empire Dreams in your webinar screen right now, that was what we really were dedicated to when we went down to Ocala one last time. Now, we've continued our relationship with DataTrack International, specifically with our friend Jay Kilgore and his compatriots. As you see the Breeze video of Commanding Curve from several years ago, all of the different data points that that the DataTrack guys use in terms of defining efficiency of motion, and also on top of this, getting the best cardio profiles. And if you want to learn more about the technology we use in the buying process, I really recommend you watch the replay of the webinar that we held back in February prior to the 2-year-old sales taking place. We are focused on finding athletes. We really are. Oftentimes emphasize physical attributes over pedigree. And as such, we watch hundreds of Breeze videos and inspect hundreds of horses before narrowing it down to a select few. And as in the case of the OBS April sale, a very select few. Those of you that were getting updates and short lists noticed that they were pretty short. And there's Commanding Curve as a 2-year-old at the OBS April sale. We believe this was a very strong sale overall, with the highest average and median in the auction's history. The top end of the market, we think, is pretty strong, and that's where discipline really comes into the mix, because there are a number of top-flight outfits that are playing in those six-figure to higher six-figure levels. We are looking for value for our partners, especially at a sale like this. Anybody can go to sale if they have the money and pick out the sales topper. But with DataTrack and our team's institutional knowledge, our experience, we've really developed a thorough evaluation system, and it's working. So let's briefly talk about the things that go into the buying process here. We've got data, raw data, stride length, heart scores, slow motion analysis, and we know that most stakes horses have a stride length of 23.5 feet or above the average. Chute notes, these are the pieces of information that tell us how the horse was acting before, during, and after the breeze, and they come from Mike Shannon and also from Aaron Birkenauer, who handled this duty for us along with Mike at the Fasig-Tipton sale down in Gulfstream Park. We also wonder at that point, do they have really unorthodox equipment on or out of the ordinary equipment? Or their breathing, was their breathing heavy? Were they making sounds coming off the racetrack? Those are things that we really want to know from our chute notes. Pedigree, there are some bloodlines that we just won't buy. We're looking for horses that will get us 2 turns, and therefore horses like Yes It's True, Wildcat, Eric, and Theros are a couple of sires that we really don't spend a lot of time pursuing. We'll also get some information as we go into the sale, and we know that each one of the consigners is offering these horses. Well, sometimes we won't buy from those particular consigners. We've had some bad luck with them. We'll also have previous sale information. How much did each individual horse sell for as a weanling or a yearling? It goes both ways. If several $100,000 the seller might be unrealistic when setting reserve. If it's only a couple of thousand, we might be a bit more cautious and find out why, there's such a low number that's been associated with that horse. It could be a vet issue, a conformation issue, or nothing at all. Some horses just kind of grow up. So we've got to really explore that and investigate at the sales grounds. Prior to the sale, we post the Blood Horse Auction Edge on Chatter for our partners to review, and this does include all the previous sale data on the horses entered in each sale, as well as the sales history on the family. So that's important information for us and neat information for you guys to pursue. The veterinarian exam. We have one veterinarian who examines every horse we buy. He reads all the x-rays, and he does the endoscopic review of each of them, scopes each of them. We also have a veterinarian, a different one, take another set of x-rays after we purchase as part of our due diligence. And we'll say that these two veterinarians don't always see eye to eye, and that's a good kind of check mark. That's a good counterbalance. We love it, though, when they do see eye to eye. The horses, you should know this. We've started to sell the horses coming out of the April sale. I think specifically the horse that's brought the most attention thus far is the First Samurai colt that's going to Dallas Stewart. I think we've sold about 30% of him thus far, but also had some movement on a number of the other horses. So just to keep in mind, some of these horses are moving along. And there is a hammer drop discount until Monday, May 9th, which is the Monday after the Kentucky Derby. Let's talk about the horses specifically, beginning with that First Samurai colt, who has the name Leonard, and I think that's a great name. Of course, it comes from his mother, Scholastic. There he is, a brilliant, shining copper, really, really dark red liver chestnut, who we're talking about with the horse Leonard. His mom is named Scholastic. She's by Gone West, and this particular First Samurai colt is going to Dallas Stewart. So any of you who have played some high school or college sports and you lettered in that sport, scholastically speaking, you put the time in and got the job done. The Scholastic is actually by Johar, who was by Gone West, so I jumped ahead one generational point there. We are delighted to send another tall, stretchy, strong colt in Big D, Dallas Stewart's direction. He knows with a very small sample size how to get him to the Derby. He's back again. He's got Tom's Ready in this year's Kentucky Derby. Folks, he really has a stable, and there we see Dallas Stewart with Tom's Ready. He has a stable of about 30 to 35 horses at the max. And who does he have in that stable? He has former Derby runners-up in Commanding Curve. He has multiple Grade 1 winners in his fillies that have performed so well, including Forever Unbridled and Unbridled Forever. He's got a horse in this year's Kentucky Derby in Tom's Ready. That's a powerhouse stable for just 30 to 35 horses. And when I told Randy Miles, who is the consigner, who was the guy who sold our colt by First Samurai, that the colt was going to Dallas Stewart, he had a big smile on his face and basically said, "This is one of the most underrated trainers in the country. He should be in the Hall of Fame by now." And when he finally gets that Derby win, which I think is just a matter of time, he is going to he's going to make a big stride towards the Hall of Fame because he's just been an amazing, amazing conditioner. Let's learn a little bit more about the numbers surrounding this particular colt. He's a May foal with a big stride, and I mean by a big stride, he's a foot, 1.19 feet above the average, with a massive cardio score of 8.5. We know the average is 7. His 71. That's the number that's been given to him for his breeze figure, is one of the highest we've seen all year. I mean, just amazing. He really bellied down and used his body efficiently, and that along with stride length gets you the higher breeze figures. Our stride and slow motion analysis analyst Jay Kilgore really deemed him to be an extremely efficient mover, giving him B+ grade as far as that goes. Now, we can't show video on our webinar, but we really encourage you to visit the Available Horses tab on the website to see each of these colts breezes. There's also some very cool footage from our Camden event over the weekend. But just know that this particular colt, once he switched leads, he really bellied down and looked beautiful over the racetrack and got that high breeze figure. Now, most of First Samurai's top runners are colts, so that gives us some real fun and encouragement in what we bought here. Lee, Justin Phillip, This is, of course, First Samurai standing at Claiborne Farm, and Last Gunfighter. Those are all colts, top colts, graded stakes winning, grade 1 in some cases winning colts by First Samurai. This is a 2-turn pedigree, and it is a 2.0 dosage number, which is very low and supports that theory. This particular colt is a Kentucky bred, and he's Breeders' Cup nominated. So that is the story of Leonard, who we think will do more than Letter when it comes to competition down the road. Let's move on to Triplicate. There he is. Could not look much different in terms of coloring. This is a bay colt with a little star, a little blob on the forehead here. This is a colt by the name of Triplicate, and it comes straight from his sire's name, Arch, which is Arch in Triplicate. The colt is out of the Henny Hughes mare, Caddy Matty. The name, as I said, was pretty easy to to come up with, and I think it fits him wonderfully. We hope he'll be a Triple Crown horse for Mike Stidham, who was the leading trainer at the fairgrounds this past winter. Mike has been a trainer for us for some time now, a number of years. Took people on a glorious ride with Ground Transport, and there are the numbers that support what he did over the wintertime: 38 firsts, 33 seconds, and 21 thirds, and just a phenomenal meet for Mike Stidham. What is good about this horse was bad for his consignor. This particular horse had a bad post, as we say. It was a great post for us. It was the last horse that went through the ring, and Tom Bellhouse was there and was privy to that particular bidding back and forth, and also was happy to be there when we signed the ticket. So, Tommy, can you talk a little bit about waiting till the end for this colt?
Certainly, Jeff. And the biggest disappointment for me having to wait to the end was Terry wouldn't let me have happy hour until we bought the horse. So we had to stay to the bitter end, and on a nice hot day at Ocala. But we were thrilled to bring this colt home. When we walked all the way back to the barn, and he was back out on the hill. For those of you who are familiar with Ocala, we got our steps in on our walking, and lo and behold, the consignor of this horse, James Layden, we mentioned that the horse would be shipping to Camden, to Kip Elzer, and I didn't put two and two together, but Kip's main man at Camden is James Layden Jr. So when I told him that this horse was shipping up to Kip at Camden, and he says, well, that's where my son works, and I never put two and two together. So I asked him, I said, well, listen, Joe Migliore and I are leaving here in the morning, and we're driving up there. Do you want us to bring anything up to him? And he goes, yeah, I want you to bring him a message. And I go, oh, what's that? He goes, don't screw this horse up. He's good.
Well, he's well on his way to not screwing it up. We have a lot of faith in both James and Kip and their crew. Good story. I did not know that, but it doesn't surprise me knowing the consignor. This colt, as we mentioned, is going to winter at the fairgrounds in New Orleans before spending time in Kentucky. And Mike Stidham said he also has plans to bring some horses up to Saratoga, so you could possibly see this dude up at the spa this summer, which would be a lot of fun. Mike is just he's all about creativity in terms of where he sends his horses and really looking for the best spot. He has a willingness to ship anywhere and everywhere, as the people with Ground Transport found, to find the race that best fits your horse and gives you the most opportune possibility of winning. This particular colt had a great breeze, and he has an 8.1 cardio, so he's right up there with the First Samurai with Leonard in terms of a massive cardio score. His stride length well above average, so you really do have a potent combination there. In terms of the sire, Arch. His first foals are 3-year-olds of this year. A number of them have done well, but I think the tops would probably be Bob Baffert's trainee Toes on Ice, who is a horse that was on the Derby Trail earlier this year. And you see Arch with John Court aboard for Jenks Fires back in the Derby of 2011. Arch is by the same sire as Blame, and his biggest win did come in the 2011 Arkansas Derby. And I can tell you this, we went to the sale in Ocala, saw a number of these Arches, and a bunch of them were extremely well received. Terry is kind of our pedigree guy as far as that goes, and also has a really broad view of the incoming young stallions, largely due to his association with all the farm guys at Lane's End and a couple of these other places like Darby Dan. Tell me a little bit about Arch from your perspective, and also where he stands, which is B. Wayne Hughes' spendthrift and what they think about him, and just talk a little bit more about those things and also about his pedigree.
I will. Jeff, thanks so much, and thank you for everybody for jumping on today. We're really excited about this group of 2-year-olds to wrap up our class of 2016. Interesting. I was thinking back. We had a chance to buy into a small piece of Arch as a 3-year-old. We couldn't get the deal done, which is very hard, especially as the days get closer and closer to the Kentucky Derby. But if you look at him, he was a really top racehorse. He won the Arkansas Derby, and he was a very legitimate contender. I remember John Court; everybody was pulling for him. He's a very good and popular rider on the Kentucky circuit. So, if you look at the progeny of Arch, they've been really well received at the sales, and they continue to be. I mean, he produces a very, very good athlete, and they're well balanced, they're intelligent, and they certainly act like they're good-minded horses. Wayne Hughes is the master of a spendthrift farm. He's very bullish on this horse. I've talked to him. We've owned horses together. We tried to buy a couple horses throughout the 2-year-old sales. We didn't get any of them bought, but we've been friends for a long time. And I know out of all the horses that are at Spendthrift, I know Arch is one of his real favorites. And he's got the pedigree. He's by a Arch, who I think is really turning out to be a sire of sire. He's a big, beautiful horse, and I think the sky is the limit with a horse like this, especially as more and more people see what we're seeing at the yearling and the 2-year-old sales. So I think we're in good shape with this pedigree on Triplicate.
That's a great summary. Thank you, Terry. We're going to move on to Reason to Soar. So we're moving from Triplicate to Reason to Soar, who was actually the name that was given as he was going through the sales process by this colt by Soaring Empire out of DeCountry. He's a grandson of Empire Maker. If you're looking up Soaring Empire, you now know where that line goes to. And this particular colt will be trained by George Weaver. This particular colt had maybe one of the very best breezes we've ever seen all year. In fact, it's backed up by his breeze figure. It was a 72. That's the highest of any of our 2016 2-year-old purchases. He worked 10 flat. So what we're really talking about there is efficiency and stride length combined. He worked 10 flat. His stride length was over a foot above average. He had a 7.0 cardio, which puts him right there where we need him to be in order to purchase, and he had a B grade in terms of the slow motion analysis as Jay Kilgore and his team did their work. I do want to point out, because we've been talking a bit more about breeze figures, what they are. It's a simple number that combines the time, the stride length, the miles per hour as calculated, and a unique set of power factors for every horse which breezes at least once at a 2-year-old in training sale. And interestingly enough, the Data Track guys, Jay Kilgore and his team, will provide these breeze figures to the Daily Racing Form, and they're very helpful in handicapping some of the 2-year-old races, both at Del Mar and at Saratoga, and other places too, but where they have a ton of those 2-year-old races this summer. So look for those on top of helping us find top flight prospects as you kind of peruse the pages or go online with the DRF, the breeze figures. This colt is a really good fit for George Weaver's operation, Smiling George Weaver. And the reason is pretty simple. It's that great combination that really fits George's operation to a T, all the opportunities. Tom Bellhouse works with George on a regular basis and knows exactly what we're talking about. So, Tommy, would you elaborate a little bit?
Absolutely, Jeff. This particular colt has the rare distinction of being a Florida bred, meaning he's eligible for the Sunshine Millions and all the Florida Stakes races, but also being by a New York sire, meaning that Soaring Empire stood in the state of New York the year that this particular colt was bred. So he's also eligible for the very restrictive New York Sire Stakes, which up on the screen, if you see that these are races that are extremely restrictive. We've had a lot of success running in those races with Empire Dreams being a son of Patriot Act. And although he's not a New York bred, he is eligible for these New York Stallion races. And George's operation is basically Belmont, Saratoga, and then he heads down to Palm Beach Downs. So I think this particular colt, has every opportunity to take advantage of the best of both worlds going forward, Jeff.
Yeah, I love the fact that one of the races that you list here is the highest purse of the 2-year-old Great White Way division, $150,000 that's on the line. And as you say, it's an extremely smaller pool that George and this colt will be swimming in because he's by Soaring Empire and a New York Stallion. You're talking about a highly, as you mentioned, restricted type of race. Soaring Empire is not a household name, so this colt had to be pretty darn special to command what we had to pay for him, which was 6 figures. He really is a beautiful, beautiful horse. Soaring Empire's trainer, Cam Gambelotti, probably remember him from the Kentucky Derby, was actually the underbidder on this colt. And interestingly enough, the colt is bred on the same cross as Triple Crown winner American Pharoah and multiple Grade 1 winner Bodemeister, two pretty amazing horses over the last couple of years in North American racing. If you would, Tommy, I'm going to bring you back in. I'm making you work for your supper here, so to speak. Can you give us a brief snippet of your conversation with Niall Brennan, who is the consignor of this horse in the back ring of the OBS sales grounds?
Yeah, Jeff. When the hammer fell and the elation and we're all taking pictures of Terry signing the ticket, Niall came back and really congratulated Terry. And Niall Brennan, there's a lot of great consigners. I think we put Niall Brennan and Eddie Woods and Steve Venosa and other people like that up near the top of the class without a doubt. But Niall Brennan also breaks the babies for the Phippses and other top outfits in addition to doing his own work and pinhooking. And this particular horse had been on his farm since he was a baby, and he really had a special affection for him, which is hard to believe for somebody who has so many horses over the years. But he raised this horse, he broke it, he brought it to the sale, and when he walked up, he really was just short of emotional when he congratulated Terry and our team, thinking that we almost we got a member of the family, and that he was super happy that the horse was going to the West Point team. And specifically when we told him later on George Weaver, he was thrilled.
Now there's connections all around, and now Brennan's certainly a guy who has raised a number of top flight horses, including Orb, who won the Kentucky Derby a couple of years ago for the Phipps stable and for Shug McGahee, etc. Shine Bright is our next animal of interest, our next prospect, our next 2-year-old. Shine Bright is a colt by gemologist. We actually bought him, and you can see him underneath the Waver Tree stable sign out there at Del Mar because we bought him at the Barrett sale, which was at the tail end of March, early April there along the seaside in Southern California. This colt, as you can see, is a big, very striking looking, with all that paint on him, strong chestnut colt with a white face, big white face.